Welcome to the Medfaber Show, where the focus is on helping you grow and preserve your wealth. Join us as we discuss the craft of investing and uncover new and profitable ideas, all to help you grow wealthier and wiser. Better investing starts here.
Medfaber is the co-founder and chief investment officer at Cambria Investment Management. Due to industry regulations, he will not discuss any of Cambria's funds on this podcast. All opinions expressed by podcast participants are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Cambria Investment Management or its affiliates. For more information, visit CambriaInvestments.com.
Well, firstly, whoever coined the expression Magnificent Seven must not have seen the movie, because 4 of the 7 are dead at the end of the movie. There's also substitution effects. I notice that these days when people talk about Magnificent Seven, they're replacing Tesla with Broadcom. So maybe it's Magnificent 6 plus 1. Anyway, this is an AI-fueled, growth-dominated bull market. The narrative is that AI will change everything. It will replace millions of white-collar jobs with computers that are smarter than the white-collar professionals. It will create millions more jobs for those who know how to use AI. It will replace countless professions, and it will leverage everything we do. So it could actually fuel a surge in GDP growth that could be quite stupendous. Like most narratives, there's a lot of truth in that. The narrative at the top of the dot-com bubble was the internet's going to change everything. The internet is going to change the way we buy and sell products. It'll change the way we get our news. It'll change the way we interact with friends, with customers. It will change everything. And it did. Why did that bubble burst? It burst because the narrative was already embraced by the market and fully reflected in share prices, such that one wit quipped that the market was not only discounting the future, but the hereafter. And I thought that was a lovely turn of phrase. But in any event, you look back at the dot-com bubble, the narrative also said this is going to happen really fast. And the narrative also said these dominant players today are going to be the dominant players in 10 years. Well, disruptors get disrupted. My favorite example is Palm. Palm was spun off in, I believe it was February of 2020 from 3Com. And the first day of trading, it went to a market cap larger than 3Com was before the spinoff, meaning the rest of 3Com had a negative value, I guess. Anyway, within days, it was worth more than General Motors. And 2 years later, BlackBerry ate their lunch. And 5 years after that, the iPhone ate BlackBerry's lunch. I gave a speech a few weeks ago, and I asked the audience, show of hands, how many people here have Palm Pilot? And obviously, people chuckled. Nobody. How many have BlackBerry? And 3 hands went up out of about 300. Disruptors get disrupted. The narrative today is AI will change everything. AI will evolve shockingly fast. There's a paper by one of the co-founders of OpenAI that says that as of last year when he wrote the paper, AI is as intelligent as a reasonably good high school student. Within a year, it'll be as good as a reasonably competent college student. Within a year after that, a reasonably competent PhD, and a year after that, it'll be smarter than any PhD on the planet. I mean, there's scary elements to that too, but that's the narrative. That narrative also makes the assumption that 20% of the US power grid will be devoted to AI by 2027. I don't think so. So narratives have the advantage of being largely true, have the disadvantage of being entirely priced into current share prices. And when elements of the narrative turn out to fall short, maybe AI will be smarter than the smartest PhD on the planet in 10 years instead of 3 years. Maybe Nvidia will be the dominant producer of super chips in 10 years, but not the only major producer. If you've got a $100 billion sales engine that's producing a $60 billion run rate profit, I mean, that's a humongous profit margin. AMD, Intel, and Taiwan Semi going to sit on their hands and say, okay, you have a moat. It's difficult to do what you do and to build the infrastructure to create what you create, so we'll let you have it. No, of course not. So you can do a simple back of the envelope, and let's say demand for super chips goes up 40% a year for the next decade. Let's say that Nvidia's market share goes from 90% to 40% over the next 10 years. It's still the biggest player. Let's assume that competition brings the price down by 2/3. Run those numbers and you find, oh gosh, Nvidia's peak profits are 2025, and they make less in 2034 than they did in 2024. That's not a forecast. I don't know enough about super chips or about the inner workings of Nvidia and its competitors to say that's a forecast. But it's an illustrative example where simple arithmetic with simple assumptions that seem pretty reasonable, pretty sensible, lead to an outcome that nobody in the marketplace would dare suggest the notion that their profits will be lower in 10 years. And yet it's simple arithmetic.
Podcast listeners will post show notes to today's conversation at mebfaber.com/podcast. If you love the show, if you hate it, shoot us feedback at themebfabershow.com. We love to read the reviews. Please review us on iTunes and subscribe to the show anywhere good podcasts are found. Thanks for listening, friends, and good investing.